the egg you eat every day have to do with your high blood sugar? You don't need any prescription medications, either pills or insulin injections, to reverse your type 2 diabetes. One more misconception or myth or lie that you may have been told. You may have even been told this by your doctor or your dietitian, is that type 2 diabetes is a chronic progressive condition that you stuck with for the rest of your life. That's just gonna keep getting worse and worse. This is absolutely not true. And I'm in the process of renaming this condition, and we're gonna start calling it pancreatic toxic cell syndrome. You don't have type 2 diabetes because of your genetics or because you were unlucky. You have type 2 diabetes because of this syndrome. This makes it much easier for the average person to understand what is going on and also see the solution to type 2 diabetes right away. Having type 2 diabetes is not your fault, but it is absolutely your problem. And so you need to pay careful attention to these recipes with avocado. Just take one glass in the morning on an empty stomach and live your life free from the constraints of type 2. That's right. Just 3 weeks is enough to stabilize your blood sugar levels and make you feel vibrant and below 90 points. And just as importantly, you'll get more sleep, lose excess weight, and become more robust and active. At first, my struggle with type 2 caused me great anxiety, especially when my blood sugar levels skyrocketed to 240. That's when I discovered this recipe. It has been incredibly effective in bringing my blood sugar down to a healthy 82. I made a short video where I show you how you can do this natural method at home tonight. Click on the button and I'll meet you on the next page. No matter how old you are, if you're tired of constant fatigue, frequent thirst, or sudden drops in energy, stop what you're doing and listen carefully. This simple 30-second trick can work for you too. So click the Learn More button before this video. I'm updating my video every 2 minutes, so Big Pharma doesn't take it down like they did with my other 3 videos. So click now and see it with your own eyes. If you want to join the army of little Davids who are fighting the giant Goliaths of big food and pharmaceutical companies, then watch the video below. Everyone who watches this video can share it to help others understand that you can reverse this chronic disease that you thought you would be stuck with for the rest of your life. Then click below.
When you have Fios Home Internet from Verizon, you can save over 40% on the movies and shows you already love, like Netflix and Max, Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. Save on them all. With Verizon, you get more of what you love for less. Switch to any Fios Home Internet plan and save over 40% on your favorite entertainment. Plans start at just $35 a month with no hidden fees or equipment charges. Only on Verizon.
We have CAPE examinations continuing tomorrow, and all support systems will remain in place to ensure that students arrive safely. These are compulsory A-level exams, and so it is important for all our Form 6 students. We give you parents the assurance that we will ensure that your child gets to school and they write their exams, and we will give you the full support to ensure that that is done. The Minister of Education this morning also directed the National Schools Dietary Services Limited, the school feeding program, to have a total of 391 meals delivered this morning, June 11th, to some of the affected areas. So in Penal Debe, we had 171 lunches, Tunapuna Piako 120 lunches, Kuva Tabakit 100 lunches. These meals were provided by caterers on the school feeding program, but these meals went to support students, first responders, volunteers, and marooned persons. We appreciate that, and it also meant that a conversation has started about incorporating the school nutrition program in our planning for disaster preparedness and reaching out to those in times of flooding. In terms of getting ready and staying alert, we also had 450 sandbags, a total of 450 sandbags distributed across affected regions between yesterday and today. We had in the Port of Spain, Tunapuna Piaco, Arima, Couva, Tabaquite, and Pinal Debe having the highest numbers of sandbags distributed. We had additional support of items, including tarpaulins and mattresses, which were distributed to affected families. Sandbags are available at every regional corporation. And I want to repeat to members of the public, please do not wait until the water is at your doorstep to get your sandbags. We have widely advertised our sandbag location or collection points, and we urge you as communities too to get involved, because there are persons who may not have transport to get the sandbags, and therefore community organizations have been getting together to aid in the transport. And I also want to tell you that this flood mitigation is an interministerial coordination. This is your entire UNC government at work for you. What we have seen is a reduced impact of flooding on homes and infrastructure as a result of early and proactive collaboration between the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, the Ministry of Works, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. What I can tell you is that a short while ago, the Met Office extended the orange level alert to tomorrow, Friday 13th at 6 p.m. It means that we are going to have several hours of torrential rains and high winds. The riverine levels are already quite high. The soil is very saturated across the country. And so we are very concerned with the increased potential for flood damage to homes, collapse to roadways that have been weakened over time by small landslips, damage to crops and livestock, and the well-being of our society as a whole. In May of this year, May 13th, we launched our flood mitigation program and shelter management exercise. Between the 14th to the 19th of May, we had drainage clearance and the embankment works in areas including Caroni River Basin, the South Oropouche. We had site inspection at Caroni, Bamboo, El Carmen, Manuel Congo areas. On the 27th of May, we did inspections in the Diego Martin region, Sawa Laventel, and Port of Spain region. On June the 3rd to the 10th, that week of the 3rd to the 10th, we visited Princestown region, Mayaro, Rio Claro region, and that was actually during an adverse weather alert, a yellow alert. We have seen the impact on the agriculture sector, where farmers across the country have been affected by what you call overland flooding and loss of crops. One example of local government collaborating with the Ministry of Agriculture. I'll give you an example in my own constituency of St. Augustine in the Orange Grove area, Tacarigua, where they are bounded on the southern side by the Caroni River. That river, the bank has been eroded over time. The farmers and us as representatives in opposition had been begging for work to be done on that riverbank, and we were ignored by the previous government. Now, with our collaboration, the Minister of Agriculture brought in two pumps into the area. 3 pumps, in fact, were deployed, 2 large ones and 1 smaller one. There was a concrete structure restricting the flow of water that was removed, and that area has not seen proper drainage maintenance over the last few years. So with all the neglect of the water courses by the previous administration, it means that we have to be more intense in our response, and we have been doing that. So what we have is positive outcomes because of our early planning, our proactive approach. We are seeing faster drainage in waterlogged areas. We have seen areas where the water came up, but the runoff was much faster than before, particularly considering the fact that we are in an orange alert. We have seen fewer homes underwater. We have reduced structural damage because of that. And thankfully, so far today, minimal disruption in terms of national exams. And this is very important. And today's exercise will be repeated tomorrow to ensure that our students get to their exams on time. We have greater public readiness and awareness and participation because we have been distributing sandbags, we have been regularly updating the public, and every minister who is involved in this has been on the ground, and that gives a level of involvement in the community and adds great value so that everybody is a part of it. When the UNC win, everybody wins. So I want to urge residents, as the orange level alerts continue, to remain indoors during the periods of heavy rain and high winds. Avoid flooded roadways and rivers. Don't be a hero and try to drive through a roadway that is flooded. Your car could really wash away. I want you to follow the updates that we have, regular updates from the Met Office, from the regional corporations, from the disaster managers throughout the country. I want you to contact your regional corporation through your local government councillor. Our local government councillors are working hard. They are out there day and night. There is no Saturday and Sunday. We work every day. And I want you to report incidents so that they can support your need when you are even threatened by flood. Don't wait until you get flood. Get sandbags before the water reaches your doorstep. And I want to wrap up by expressing a heartfelt thank you to the Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar for her foresight and her compassion in initiating early flood preparation across all ministries. As an opposition member of Parliament for Siparia, she has been on the ground in her boots, and perhaps her compassion comes from identifying with the people she represents, which is now all of Trinidad and Tobago. The Prime Minister's instruction to plan ahead and to prepare before the rainy season really enabled us as ministers, our regional corporations, and all our state agencies to move swiftly and to protect lives and support families and students in real time. I would also want to thank the mayors, our chairmen, our councillors at regional corporations, the staff. People complain that, administrative staff tend to work 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, and after 4 they go home, or even before that. I've seen people complain. We know it has been a tradition where regional corporation workers gone home by 8 o'clock. But I have been out in regions, for instance, when we went to MP Nicholas Morris area in Mayaro, we were there after 5 p.m. and excavators were working. You had manual labor, you had workers who were out there from morning. They took a lunch break and they continued to work way past 5 p.m. So I am telling you that we are seeing hope in Trinidad and Tobago. We are seeing renewed energy, and I am inspired by the as I said, the foresight of Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and to see the relief that is being provided to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I also want to remind all of you that we are not out of the danger. As an opposition MP, I would have encountered flooding. We would have made representation for the maintenance of major water courses, and they fell on deaf ears. And people of my constituency are also in high praise of our Minister of Works, who has been attending to riverbanks and pumps, and I don't envy her because the level of neglect we have in some of those major water courses in areas where it's challenging to do work in the rainy season. But certainly the flood victims who have been flooded over and over in some of those areas are truly grateful for her intervention. So at this time, I will make way for Minister of Works, Ms. Jolene John, to address you.
Why would this guy get new permanent teeth in 24 hours?
Instead of placing you in temporary teeth,
You get your permanent teeth in 24 hours. After nearly 10 years of combined research and development, we've refined our proprietary processes. Our skilled lab professionals work through the night so you can receive your permanent teeth the next day.
It's literally the day of surgery. You get the implants placed. We get the scans. We get all the records. We send this to the lab, and literally at that, just overnight, they'll make the zirconia prosthesis, and they'll be delivered the next morning.
Click the button below to see if you may be eligible for Nuvia's permanent teeth in 24 hours.
My daughter was diagnosed with medulloblastoma. Lily lost the ability to walk, talk, and all of her motor functions. I wondered if I'd ever hear her say Dad again.
You can join the battle to save lives by becoming a St. Jude Partner in Hope for only $19 a month.
I love St. Jude. They helped me get to where I could walk again, I could talk again, I could do everything I wanted again.
She needed
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, my honorable colleague, Minister of Rural Government and Rural Development and Local Government. I know you all are going to ask. So the other Prime Minister is in cabinet. The meeting continues, okay, Prior? Yeah, that's the only reason she's not here right now. We didn't want to keep you waiting for too much longer. So she asked that we come out, and because you would have wanted to know what was happening with this ongoing yellow alert that just seemed, orange alert, sorry, that seemed to be unrelentless. Yesterday, I spent the day working in Tobago, as a matter of fact, and the flights were turned back. Flights that would have been gotten clearance to take off from Tobago, get into Piarco and vice versa, had to turn back mid-air because they said the visibility was actually zero. Right? Eventually, flights were given the go-ahead. Today I heard there were about 4 or 5 flights, and that was about the midday period or so. Now, I really want to associate myself with the remarks from the Honourable Minister of Rural Development and Local Government with respect to the work that is ongoing. And it was on Tuesday, I was minding constituency business, and the councillors, and they are the heroes, in all of this, managed and led by the Honourable Minister. They really are out there and getting the job done. But over the last 48 hours, with respect to what the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, what we have been doing, we have been looking, and we have had areas under active surveillance, and embankments have been assessed all the while. As the Honourable Minister just said, we really are playing catch up. We like to be proactive in our work, to plan and to do this work. I mean, I know you have to walk and chew gum, but certainly we would have done a much better job of mitigation had there been ongoing maintenance over the last decade or so. But notwithstanding that, we are out there, we are conducting checks from the point of view of the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, checks on gate structures to ensure that there are no leakage or backflows in specific areas such as the Piarco Airport, Bamboo Settlement number 2. We are currently prioritizing assessment of critical infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and slopes. And it's not only the ministries or the corporation, but residents are also sending in videos, very graphic videos, that really are very sad and painful to see, a TNTech pole leaning into people's house, the level of flooding. It really is very, very, very heartbreaking. But so, as I said, whilst this rain is wreaking havoc, we have to keep looking at the infrastructure and checking. We check the slopes, and we try to prevent any secondary impacts due to landslide or structural failure. So as we approach, because we are really now approaching the height of the rainy season, the ministry has identified key projects in areas that are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of flooding. In the short and medium term, the following interventions have been prioritized to mitigate flooding in high-risk communities, such as Pinal. Last week I was in Pinal, and they were showing me an area where 1 mile of road floods, and the drains were just filled with silt and grass, overgrown, and garbage inside of there was a cemetery where they told me the rule of thumb with how severely flooding will be was when that graveyard flooded by 6 or 7 feet. That is sad. You understand? So basically, I said, we are not averting our eyes to these issues. We are leading right into them. So as I said, the following interventions have been prioritized to mitigate in areas such as Pinal, Superior, Avocat, to name a few. And these are areas we've seen for years, flooding year after year after year. They just keep flooding us. So the snapshot of our priority projects, at this time there are many. Right? There are many. So when I call these out, please don't get public, I'm telling them. So you are all priority, but in terms of where the flooding is going to come from, we're talking about Tulsa Trace. We are building out a retaining wall and rehabilitation of the roadway, Marabella River, mouth clearing, Caparo River, the silting of that river mouth, Coromata River, removal of damaged floodgates on that river to address flooding in areas such as Clark Road, Sipero River, clearing and desilting downstream of Gulfview, Link Road. This will provide relief in areas such as Gulfview, Palmis, and Tampana Lane, desilting of detention pond in Debe to reduce flooding along the Debe Main Road, Trantrill Road, desilting, works to mitigate flooding within the Trantrill and surrounding areas in St. Augustine. We have continuous road on the Caroni River, of course, on the river mouth, clearing that river mouth. To our citizens, I urge you to continue exercising caution. Please avoid, just as the minister just said, flood-prone areas and report any sign of infrastructure damage to your local authorities. They are your first responder, but not only that, they are not waiting to respond. They have been out there really being proactive in their work. And I want to say on behalf of the government that the safety of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago remain our highest priority. Now, the second and final issue matter I want to bring to the public's attention is that the Cabo Star, by name of the boat, which is the cargo boat that plies between Trinidad and Tobago, and they call any cargo boat between Trinidad and Tobago the economic lifeline. That vessel goes on dry dock from about the 12th of July right into the 3rd of August. But that includes, it's not only the dry docking days, but there are 6 sailing days to where it's been dry docked. And in light of that, that is part of why I was in Tobago yesterday. We are putting into service the TNT Spirit and the Guardian's Passage, the MV Guardian's Passage. Now they cannot. They can take a maximum of about 105 trucks for up to about from 7 to 10 tons, because for Tobago you carry from Occident to Okra, you carry from bricks to bitumen. Everything is transported to Tobago literally from Trinidad. So that cargo boat is essential. Now, to take the what we call the dangerous cargo, such as the highly flammable and toxic materials such as chlorine gas for WASA, oxygen for the hospital, bitumen, nitrogen, propane, etc. We had to hire a barge that is called MV Emprem Ladora to take that. They can take the big containers and they can take the big bags of sand, etc. So basically, we are going to heighten. The reason we were talking to the stakeholders yesterday was to assure them that we are going to have some stockpiling days. So prior to that boat going off to dry docking, we are going to enhance the service of Cabo Star into Tobago to ensure that for the retailers who need to stock up, they will have the opportunity to do. And but as I said, basically what is being put on is not ideal, but it is sufficient to get the job done during that period. And of course, we are going to have a very intense communication campaign, which would have started from yesterday with notices to stakeholders and users about the schedule changes or alternate arrangement, some continued engagement with the affected, those who could be impacted, the business groups, dedicated personnel to ensure smooth operations, dedicated telephone, people on the ground, because we want to ensure within a 24-hour cycle, that information and assistance is there. So no one feels helpless or concerned about the quality of service or whether they will have any service at all. That is not, there'll be no gap in that service, right? So we have looked at the challenges and do that gap analysis and put things in place to ensure that we can, as the part of the government's commitment to inclusive national development, that is, of course, between Trinidad and Tobago, we believe, and our Honorable Prime Minister has said so in very unambiguous terms, that she sees the strategic, she looks at the strategic infrastructure priorities for the island, including enhancement of the inter-island connectivity, and of course, ongoing port enhancement, etc. So this, based on what the Honourable Prime Minister has been saying, he has described the engagement as part of a new phase of side-by-side development grounded in mutual respect, shared responsibility, and a unified approach to national progress. She has emphasized that every effort is being made to minimize the disruptions in the Tobago's operation and called on all relevant stakeholders to adopt a results-driven, collaborative mindset to ensure the success during this period of transition. I thank you very much.
Some of us dream in color, others in black and white. In some dreams, we're an observer. In others, we're the star. Find your dream during Mercedes-Benz Dream Days, now through July 31st.
When you say let's go to breakfast, you mean let's go to McDonald's. Obviously.
Mix and match two of your breakfast favorites for just $6 and pair them with a Dr. Pepper.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Good evening, members of the media. Thank you all for joining us, especially in these adverse weather conditions. And I know both my colleagues, Minister Amina and Minister John, would have given you some news with respect to the weather, but today I wish to bring some sunshine this afternoon. I am happy to announce that the Cabinet has agreed and we have approved a company's amnesty for those companies that may have been affected with respect to the filing of various post-incorporation documents. So we will have a waiver of penalties for late filing, which will be published by legal notice from the period January 31, 2025 to September 15, 2025. And this matter was in fact approved by the Cabinet today. So a company's amnesty, will be enforced, and I repeat again, from the 31st of January 2025 to the 15th of September 2025. It will be an amnesty that operates retroactively. And as you all know, with respect to what has happened at the company's registry, there was the introduction and the digitization of key services at the Registrar General's Department, in particular the company's registry. And this was in line with some of our obligations with respect to FATF and the Global Forum. In fact, when you look at the numbers with respect to cross and filing, there have been so far for the period 1st of January 2023 to the 26th of May 2025, the filing of over 87,835 post-incorporation documents, which includes annual returns both for profit and non-profit and external companies, notice of change of secretaries, notice of change of directors, and notice of change of address. And it was published earlier this year, I believe, in the newspaper, that with respect to an audit that was done at the Register of the Companies, conducted as of the 16th of May 2025, that approximately 27,649 companies are in default of the Companies Act, having failed to submit annual returns for more than 3 years. There was a strike-off exercise that was done, and the Registrar General would have struck off over 46,671 companies for failure to file annual returns. The Registrar General would have issued public notices for various companies to become compliant with this. Now, with the introduction of the amnesty and the extension of this amnesty period, it provides an essential opportunity for companies wishing to remain active to fulfill their obligations without incurring late filing penalties under the Companies Act, and to provide for those companies that have been struck out due to non-compliance so that they can in fact now be restored on the register. The Registrar General will not exercise the power of striking out of the registrar during the registry during this amnesty period. And I will give you some statistics just now of not only private companies that were struck out from the register, but there are a list of state enterprises that were also struck out from the registrar and have been non-compliant with respect to provisions under the Companies Act. We have been, as Minister of Legal Affairs, the Law Association did write to me expressing their concern with respect to this matter, and they have also made a request with respect to the company's amnesty. And this is one of the initiative of a very caring administration, where we listen, we consult, and then we act. So during this period of the amnesty, persons have had difficulties with respect to the online filings and so on. The Registrar General's Department is prepared during this period to implement an over-the-counter filing system to assist companies in fulfilling their obligations, and the service is designed to provide essential support during this transition, ensuring that companies can efficiently update their records and, in fact, achieve compliance. However, I am reminding members of the public who are willing to avail themselves of this amnesty that they also have, while we have the over-the-counter filing, they must also be registered for companies' registrars account, the CRA, to facilitate the attaching of paper filing to the digital identity of the applicant, and to ensure that the Registrar General upholds the integrity of the documents that were in fact filed. So this is us bringing some relief to persons, companies, with respect to the non-compliance in Trinidad and Tobago. We know we are now regulated under rigid regulations because of our FATF, CFATF, and Global Forum requirements. And I want to share with you the names of the state enterprises that were in fact struck out, and those state enterprises that are in fact in breach of the law, because I want to explain something to you. A state enterprise.
Grainger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Is incorporated, some of them, by way of the Companies Act. So it means that they have to comply with the regulations and the law of the Companies Act, just like any private company. The difference is that the shareholder in most of these state enterprises will be the corporation sole, which is the Minister of Finance. So they are obligated to comply with the provisions of the Companies Act. And every year on the anniversary date, the company has to file something called an annual return. If this annual return is not filed for a period of 3 years, the Registrar General has the power under the law to strike out the company. So the first company, and I'm sorry to disappoint Ms. John, is the National Marine and Maintenance Services Company Limited, a very critical company under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. They were struck out on the 16th of January 2025. Tourism Trinidad Limited was struck out on the 10th of March 2025. So those two were struck out. These are the list of those companies that are now in breach of the law and have not filed their annual returns. Alutrint Limited, the Estate Management and Business Development Company Limited, known as EMBDC. ETEC, Export TT, Golan Grove Buku Limited, that was the company set up with respect to the Sandals project. Invest TT, National Commission for Self-Help Limited, National Helicopter Services Limited, National Information and Communication Technology Company Limited, National Infrastructure Development Company Limited, that's NITCO, the National Investment Fund Holding Company Limited, NIF, the Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises Limited, PSAEL, the Rural Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited, that's RDC, Minister Amin, the Couva Medical and Multi-Trading Facility, CMMF Limited, Trinidad and Tobago Creative Industries Limited, Trinidad and Tobago Free Zones Company Limited, Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance Company Limited, and the last one is TTT. I think they're here with us. So TTT, your last annual return was filed in 2023. So these are all of the companies that have not filed their annual returns within the prescribed period of the law. So both state enterprises and also private companies, privately owned companies, will also be able to avail themselves of this period of the company's amnesty, as I said, to bring some relief to people in Trinidad and Tobago. So I thank you all very much, and we are now all open to questions.
No questions?
Thank you very much.
Harry, AZP News. My quick question is, Minister Amin, in terms of flooding and in terms of children going to school, if they need to call anyone, is there a hotline or something that they can use to call?
Yes. We are advising anyone in flood-affected areas to contact their regional corporations at the earliest possible time. If you have a student who has to go to school for exams tomorrow, and because of that, we were able to put several instances, put transport in place at various regional corporations. In some cases, our chairmen themselves participated in transporting the students. So any parent who has a concern, please contact your nearest regional corporation, local government councillor, or disaster management unit. And we have the transport in terms of trucks. We have the dinghies if the water levels come up much higher, and the troop carriers from the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment.
How many people have flooded out after night or in the morning? What is your advice to them? Do they call anyone? Do they stay? Do they, are there shelters for them to go, for example?
Yes, we have we have prepared several shelters to be activated. In those flood-prone areas, people are aware of where their shelters are, and we will also circulate through the media a list of shelters that will be activated. We also continue to share the phone numbers, the hotlines, at every regional corporation for any person to contact. I also want to thank the media for its role in keeping the public informed, and I want to ask all media houses to ensure that the information you are sharing is up to date. A couple hours ago, I saw something posted, I know it was on CNC3's page, and that is an outdated memo that we would have sent out with regional corporations' contact information. The updated one also includes numbers for Tobago. So please ensure that you are sharing updated information as it comes from the Met Office, from the Disaster Management Unit, as well as Oh, this is it. It's on the screen. It's on the screen. So here you will see the city corporations, the borough corporations, the regional corporations, and the Tobago Emergency Relief. And this was issued more recently, so I ask you to please ensure that you are using this one. If you have trouble remembering, just remember yellow is the code. But please use these, okay?
Minister
Any
Hussain,
other questions? Go ahead.
The amnesty, can you just explain, does it go back, a few years? So if you didn't file, and you've been struck out now, does it go back a few years when you haven't filed?
Okay. So I think I understand what you're asking. If a company fails to have filed their documents, let's say 3 years ago, they can take advantage. Every month there will be a penalty being attached, and that penalty will keep growing until they're ready to become compliant. That company can take advantage of having those fees and late payments waived. So therefore no. So there are two things. A company, if it's struck out based on the Registrar General, 3 years or less, they have not paid the annual returns, filed the annual returns, the Registrar General can struck out. If it's more than 3 years, they will have to make an application to the court to be restored. If it's more than 3 years, if it's less than a 3-year period and they have been struck out, they can come back. But companies who are not struck out, they can in fact take advantage of the amnesty. Yeah. So that is one of the relief. And I forgot to mention, and that's such an important point that slipped me, is that this all took place within the last administration. Is either sharing competence or mismanagement at most of these state enterprises. And we have seen some of them still clutching on to power, and they have refused in some instances to resign. And this is some of the issues that we have identified based on their lack of performance over the last 9 years.
What's the sitch?
A cramped neck would ruin her vacay. And by the looks of it, she's waited all year for this. The Ballast Beach Pillow is compact, easy to inflate, and stays where you need it.
Hi, Sunil Lala, TDT News Minister. You spoke about, students being transported to these exams. Could you clarify in terms of whether any student would not have been able to sit the exam study, and if at all any make-up exams through CXC Cape?
I'm sorry you missed Dr. Dowlat. As Minister of Education, the Ministry of Education will be in a better position to report where students miss exams. What we are doing is providing support to ensure that all schools, all students do have the opportunity. What I know is that many students did make it to school without the support, but where students were terribly affected, I'll tell you, in the San Rafael area, in an area called Peters Field. We had students going to Port of Spain, San Francisco, girls coming up to Lakshmi Girls College, and many of those areas were, apart from the students, the area surrounding the students, home being flooded out, the route to get to the school was also flooding out. So we would deal with requests that come to us. The Minister of Education and the Ministry of Education have been very proactive. In fact, they compiled a list of schools that they felt were at risk of flood even before we did, and we have been working together even through the night. So tomorrow, this is a compulsory exam for all Form 6 students. So we want to ensure that they don't miss it. They have done the paper 2 already, and they only have to do the paper 1. So I really don't want to have to jeopardize them. As a mother, I know the work that a child puts into studying and preparing for exams. So we want to wish all our students good luck. And I have confidence in the Minister of Education based on his collaboration with us thus far to ensure that all students write their exams.
You mentioned councillors have been working hard, they have boots on the ground. This just mentioned that had started on May 13th, I believe, the flood mitigation program.
Yes.
How has the regional corporations been doing in terms of their readiness, their efficiency during the last 3 to 4 days?
What we have done is provided regional corporations from the day we launched this flood mitigation with additional manpower, technical support, additional equipment. We have also teamed up corporations so that they take turns sending their own equipment and labor to their neighbors, and then they return the favor, so that you have intense work in specific areas at a time, and the removal of the debris, because when they clear drains, you must remove the debris. And because of that, you have a lot of those watercourses who clear. So even though the flood, you did have some flooding, the water went down faster. I have been visiting regional corporations. Like, I get reports on a daily basis, but I find value in attending, going there myself. And most corporations have really maximized on this opportunity. They are really pushing. They are working day and night, late all in the weekend, 2 o'clock in the morning. And there are some corporations whom I felt could do a little more in terms of not just their regular drain cleaning, but really pushing. And that is why I made it my business to sit with them and really drill down. This is not a UNC corporation exercise. This exercise is for every single region and every flood-prone area. And therefore, if a councillor does not do the necessary in terms of sending us the water courses to be cleared, making a request for additional equipment, and directing the labor from their district to clear those water courses, then they are doing an injustice to the people who live within that district. And I'm saying this is not a UNC or PNM exercise. All councillors, UNC or PNM, every regional corporation, it is your duty to be out there on the field and to make sure that this flood mitigation takes place in every region across Trinidad.
Minister John, just one question to you. Earlier today I saw some social media videos that looked like the Manzanilla stretch covered in a significant, I almost mistaken it for the Caribbean River Basin. But I know we would have an issue a couple of years ago where this roadway broke away. Has there been any assessment done prior to this, and is there any concern at this point in time?
We were actually on that. I was actually on that roadway maybe 2 weeks ago. I think the Minister of Local Government followed that visit. What they were doing was resurfacing the road. I think there was some other very extensive work going on there, because they were saying the water, you're very right, could extend over a mile or so when it starts flooding in that area. Now, with the level of rainfall we have had, it could happen, quite frankly. But hopefully we'll be able to preserve the surface, because to really put down the material, you need a period of sunshine, and we really have not had that. We have had the luck of, never mind, our logo is sunshine. We've had a lot of rain since we have come into office, and that has presented a challenge. But notwithstanding that, our people are again on the ground. The difference with us is that we know trouble will come. Okay, we can't avoid it. The difference is we show up. All right, so the roadway will be restored, and then we'll have the work necessary to ensure that it is brought to a level that is acceptable to the people who traverses it.
And just finally for me, I know you said the Cowstar would be going into dry docking. So
mandatory dry docking.
The MV Emprendedora is nothing new to us. We've known about it. Yeah. You made a mention that it's probably not sufficient enough, but are you satisfied that it would be sufficient given that we're going into the July-August vacation?
Not the Emprendedora. I'm saying collaboratively, because the Cowstar carries about 150 trucks every day. There will be a shortfall. You could do probably much better than me, because the Spirit, it carries about 75 vans, the Galleon about 30, so that's 100. The Emprendedora will carry about 18 or so of those what do you call it? The large containers, that is. So there will be a bit of a shortfall, and that is why we have said we have given a month look ahead, being proactive. So there'll be a period of enhanced service with the Cowstar to ensure persons who wishes they can stock up in advance.
All right. The stakeholders have assured us that the first 2 weeks will be okay. Right. It's the third week that will present that challenge. You know, in the spirit of transparency. So we know what we are treating with. So definitely we'll ensure that they have enough. There's enough capacity. Even some additional sailing times with the Spirit Galleons passages, etc. All right. Yes, sir.
Yes. With respect to the dry docking of the Cabo Star,
Yes.
Can you provide an update on Caridoc, which, well, the government would have commandeered from HCL, but...
What is the update on Caridoc? Caridoc is a place, I mean, you want to take away some of my best lines for next week. You know, the dry dock sank, but you know that is a submersible. It's supposed to sink and come back up. It's not supposed to sink to the bottom of the ocean like a stone, and it has done so. It was sold, I think, for $1. The value was $10 million, sold for $1 to a company in Turkey. So what has happened is we have lost about $22 million US in revenue over the last 2 years. And up to now, we can't have some fancy little dry dock that was supposed to come in. So basically, the former government was more or less destroying a company that should be bringing in, has real potential for Forex.
Right. And Mr. Minister Hussein, will the Coleman Commission of Inquiry report on CLICO, will that be laid in Parliament tomorrow? And would the government consider another inquiry into the previous government's handling of the liquidation process and dissipation of prime assets from 2016 to present, one of which Ms. John just described?
The Prime Minister told us to stay in our lane, so that's a lane that the Attorney General will have to drive on.
From research to real cures, NMDP is committed to now making dreams possible. NMDP.
All right, just one other question directly pertaining to what you would have mentioned a short while ago. Could there be any legal ramifications or loopholes emanating from the delisting of any of the state companies in respect of business conducted by these companies while they do not legally exist, so to speak?
That's a matter that definitely we'll have to look into. That's a very good question. With respect to the conduct of certain companies that may have been struck out, there are just 2 companies that so far we have learned that were struck out. The others that are in breach with respect to the failure to file annual returns, those companies still exist on the register. But the question with respect to the legal ramifications, that is something that we will have to consider and maybe get back to you on.
Joshua Simongo from Guardian Media. Actually, Minister, I was going to ask about the EMBD civil action case with Ram Nutt. Is it that is EMB firstly one of the companies that was already struck off, or is there?
No, EMBDC has not been struck off. They have just failed to file annual returns, and I can give you the date. The EMBDC did not file annual returns since 2022. We're now in 2025, so they are on the brink. So EMBDC did not file, they are still on the register, the company's register. It's quite ironic that they have spent tens and tens of millions of dollars with respect to legal fees and other matters, but a simple exercise like filing an annual return, they couldn't file.
So you're not in a position this time to ascertain if the legal matters may be compromised in some way?
Well, no, this really is with respect to the failure to file annual returns. The company is on the register. In terms of the merits of those civil actions, I wish not to go into those matters.
And have any of the companies already paid the fees to come back on board and put everything?
So far, the report that I have, I got this from the Registrar General, so it seems as though none of those companies have yet paid. I would imagine that now that the amnesty is announced, that they will also take advantage of this amnesty.
Okay. I just have a question for Minister John. Minister John, you paid a visit to Tobago. Can you give me an update about the Tobago terminal? When can we expect that to come into effect?
Well, that's a matter for the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister Eli Zakur. And as you have heard my other colleague say, the Prime Minister says stay in your lane, although Eli is about flying in the sky. We, of course, there should be a, Airport Authority Board in place very soon. There's a shared responsibility. NITCO, who would have been the project managers, they fall under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. And then Minister Zakuru with the Airports Authority. So it will be very soon. We are not irresponsible like our predecessor, you know. What was spent was good taxpayers' money, all right? And I spent a good extension of time with the Chief Secretary, and he is all about the people's business, all right? And what this new terminal building will do for Trinidad and Tobago as a whole. So he's planning for when that old terminal building is vacated to use it as perhaps potentially as a space for private jets, because he has, I mean, the vision is very big for Tobago, as we spoke about a collaborative approach.
And what have you made of the ODPM's response? I know a colleague of yours had some words in terms of the flooding response. Do you think they performed adequately?
Well, listen, we are all working in the interest of the people. We don't want to beat people all over the head right now when folks are in crisis, all right? As MP Khadija Amin would have been telling, it is showing say people are up all night. The local government people, my phone is filled with pictures, they're showing you they are around Gully Soccer, they're now posing as if they're Brad Pitt around all these drains and things now, because they're just busy on the ground. So I don't think this is a time for blame. What we do, hopefully there will be some kind of respite later, tomorrow or the day after. We come together and we see how can we use state resources better, both human, the equipment and money to do a better job. All right, so that I think that there is where we are now. We are trying to really recover and help people who are in crisis. A lot of people are in crisis. I just got a picture, because this morning I got a photo of some pole leaning. So I just got a picture saying, thank you so much, Miss John. There's a new pole in place. Who do I thank? I'm thanking myself. I thank TNTech. You understand, for responding. That's what I'm saying. So it's a whole of Trinidad and Tobago approach right now. Neighbor helping neighbor, Khadija helping neighbor, and so on and so forth. Okay, thank you.
Before you step off the podium, Jen Slavin, slightly off your lane just a little bit with regards to the CAL, and we understand that the Cabo Star will be going on dry dock soon.
Yes.
Post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, there was late flights between Trinidad and Tobago on CAL. Now that the Cabo Star will be going to dry dock soon, will that be reintroduced, and how soon would that be reintroduced?
Cabo Star don't really carry passengers, you know. Cabo Star is a cargo boat, you know. So you'll still have the Bucca Reef and the other one pressed into service. The Spirit and the Guardian's Passage. Well, the Guardian's Passage is a passenger boat, but because of the weight of the cargo, you wouldn't want to risk too many people on that. So it should all be adequate. But if it's not adequate, what you have is a responsive government. We ain't gonna watch people just suffer. I'm a Tobagonian. I wouldn't watch people sleep on the Porter-Speed, right? We'll make the necessary arrangements and respond to that. Okay?
Minister Hussein. Again, slightly off your lane, just a tad bit, but you are a minister, any ministry nonetheless, with regards to I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, there was a significant judgment in the appeal court with regards to a $20 million payout plus to be made to 9 men. Will the state be appealing that?
Again, that's not my portfolio. I am the Minister of Legal Affairs. That's a matter with respect to the Attorney General. I'm not a minister in the Office of the Attorney General. The ministries have been split. There's the Office of the Attorney General now, and there's also the Ministry of Legal Affairs. That is not part of my gazetted portfolio, but that is a matter that you will want to engage the Honorable Attorney General on. You're asking me to collide. I don't switch lanes so easily.
Was it discussed or was it brought up in Cabinet at all today?
Cabinet discussed several matters. I can assure you that was not one of the matters that we have discussed.
Any update with regards to the Venezuela impasse, if I can use that word? Was that discussed in Cabinet, and can you update us on that?
The deliberations of Cabinet are confidential and secret. However, we are here to brief you on the various portfolio items that are under our ministry, so I could only answer to those questions.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, it's his job to keep the power on. That's why he chooses Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call, click, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Here goes. Tomorrow is
supposed to be quite a big day in Parliament, quite a few things happening. Well, firstly, are we confident, is the government confident that given the state of all the flooding and everything, that we will actually be seeing Parliament convene? Okay, that's good. I'm seeing nods from the two on head table.
Parliament is convening at 1:30 p.m. It will be the second sitting.
And of course, the second thing would be, well, there's a new commissioner of police being proposed and an acting deputy. So we have to try a thing and ask a question, whether lane or not lane. You still have to ask how you foresee it going.
Sure, and I know you will be tuned on to the debate tomorrow, so I expect that you will hear the various arguments being proposed by the government tomorrow. So it's a matter of a couple hours again.
Thank you.
Minister John, question for you. Now that a new CAL board has been installed, how soon can the public expect to see improvements or changes in the operations of the entire Lanome Bridge?
I think we're talking about stay in your lane. Minister Eli Zachary is the Minister of Transport, but we share a building. He gets to work before me on mornings. That's not easy to do. It means he gets to work at 5:30. So I'm sure you'll see immediate improvements if I can speak on his behalf. Okay? Yes, he works. He gets to work early. Yeah.
Minister John, just one question for me. On Friday night, we would have seen an incident at the airport. I know the Minister of Civil Aviation, Eli Zachary, would have talked about this, but there was an apparent robbery at one of the, close to the arrival terminal. Well, not the terminal, when you come out, the arrival, just outside the airport. Has all measures been put in place, and what is going to be put in place to prevent this? Any update on this?
Look, I can't tell you what has been done to prevent it, but I know I heard about discussions with the TTPS, etc. Nobody's happy about these things because it's always your public image and so on, your international image even. So yes, there have been measures in place. Not only TPS, they have local police, airport police. What they call it? That's what I'm saying. I heard they were discussing it, but because it isn't quite Malayan, I didn't really focus on it. But I do know he has been having discussions about ensuring this does not reoccur.
Right. Just finally from me, Minister, the effect on farmers, I'm not sure if you have any update on this with regard to the effect on them so far, and if anything would be put in place post this event.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Minister Saddam Hussein is a minister in the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and I will allow him to speak on that because the Ministry of Agriculture has been very active in flood mitigation.
So this is my lane now. With respect to matters involving the agricultural sector, we have received many complaints with respect to some of those farmers who have received damage due to the inclement weather with respect to their crops. The Cabinet has in fact approved, and this was announced, that there was a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries to engage in the clearing of various water courses with respect to agricultural sites and developments and so on. So that is a matter that has been engaging our attention. We were fully briefed by the engineering division within the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, where a priority list was given with respect to those water courses that require cleaning. So therefore, when it rains, it doesn't flood the farmlands easily. That is a project that has in fact been approved by the Cabinet already. Just 4 weeks into government, that project engaged the attention of the Honourable Minister Ratiram. With respect to the farmers' compensation and so on, those are discussions that we're having because everyone knows that there's a perennial issue in Trinidad and Tobago with respect to registration of farmers and the accessing of compensation and incentives. And that ties back to land tenure issues. That also is one of the areas which I look closely at the Ministry of Agriculture because there are certain criteria that one has to meet with respect to being registered as a farmer in order to access compensation grants and so on. So that is a matter that we have close to our desk in terms of receiving active attention to bring relief to farmers and so on.
And just a follow-up to that, is it a situation where it's a widespread crop of farmers being affected in all areas? What is the most affected areas in terms of farmers at this point?
So there are various areas. I know just yesterday I received complaints with respect to what is taking place at Orange Grove. That is an area. A couple of weeks ago, Minister Amin and Minister Atiraman, they would have toured the Arangwes area also. So there are several areas that are affected. As the hours go by, we keep getting continuous reports of various areas that are in fact being affected, which we could probably share with you with respect to a comprehensive list of those areas that are in fact affected by the torrential rainfall and farmers in particular.
Just apart from the ground reports, the reports on the ground itself, do you have any sort of aerial surveillance via drones or so as to some of the affected areas?
So, with respect to the Ministry, with respect to the Ministry of Agriculture, so far I can tell you on our end we have not conducted the aerial surveillance with respect to those matters. I don't know if Minister Amin or Minister John.
Yes.
Yeah. So Minister, those images will be generated by the other ministries and will be shared with us. I can tell you that the three ministries are working very close together with respect to this issue.
Moving this summer? Pods is the most awarded container moving company. Pods brings the container to you. Then we'll take it to your new home or store it at a secure pod storage center. And you don't have to do the driving. Trust Pods with your next move. Book at pods.com.
And I would give you some information also that what we discovered at the Ministry of Agriculture is this. There's a company called PSAEL, and they in fact would, and more of this will come out with respect to the media review and so on, where this company was mandated through an MOU to prioritize various agricultural sites for the clearing of drainage, building, infrastructure, roadway, and so on. And a particular loan was taken for this particular project. What we learned from the Ministry of Agriculture is that right before the general election, leading up to the general election, that company was being instructed by the political directorate, not calling a name, it was being instructed by the political directorate to, instead of fixing farmlands and agricultural sites, but rather building box drain and paving roads in marginal constituencies leading up to the general election. So when farmers are flooded, they have ignored the priority list provided by the technocrats in the ministry where we should have placed the focus on, but it was being used or abused right before a general election, paving roads and building box drains in marginal constituencies. I could tell you it took place right in the St. Joseph, the Arangwes St. Joseph constituency. And you have farmers in Arangwes who are today reeling because of the effects of the torrential rainfall. But
we interviewed a farmer in the Elsborough constituency south, just a couple of weeks ago when there was some torrential rainfall. So they spoke about floodgates not being functional enough. Is this something that's going to be a priority in terms of the Ministry of Agriculture?
Sure. That is an issue. It crosses both the constituency of Bartarasawa and the constituency of Arangwes St. Joseph. That is a matter I spoke to Ms. John about already with respect to the flood pumps and the floodgates in the area. So it's a twofold issue with respect to the gates and the functioning of the floodgates and also the flood pumps. Because where that area is located, it bounds the Caroni River, and the land is much lower than the Caroni River, so the water cannot flow over the bank. So therefore you have to manually, through pumps and so on and gates, let the water escape. So currently you have to wait until the Caroni goes down before the gates are open so the water can come out of the land. And where the flooding is so bad, the pumps should have been coming on. It has been 5 years ago I have been the MP for Barter San Juan. I have every single year I would complain about these flood pumps at the El Socorro site. I did, in fact, Ms. John knows that I raised it with her, and that is something that is receiving the attention also of the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I know the Prime Minister is still in Cabinet, and we have to get back into Cabinet, so I thank you all very much.
Okay.
This is TTT. Live for local.
Hi there, I'm Sigoni Mohammed. You probably know me as your resident weather anchor. I've guided you.
Hi, I'm